Hello, Trevor. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Hey, Ian. Great to be with you guys. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolute pleasure. Earlier in the week, I was speaking to Ben Smith over in Southampton about the Garmin products. And clearly, I mean, Garmin's always been a company that just continually develops and innovates and releases new products. I wonder if you could give us a little bit more detail on some of the stuff that's been happening around the autopilot, the GFC and the GFC 500 and 600.
Yeah, it's a great question, Ian. So yeah, we've been really blessed over the last couple of years to have a rapid release cycle, not just with new products, but also with new software updates and adding new capability to those existing products. I don't know the exact number, what it is. I think Ben was telling me around 20 different new products or major releases in the last 18 months. So yeah, we've been very busy back in the development houses at Garmin, bringing out new capabilities and introducing new products. But I think one of the things we're really proud of actually is the GFC 500 and GFC 600 autopilots. There's a couple of reasons why we're particularly proud of these products. And I think one of the main reasons is the extreme level of safety that it adds to general aviation aircraft. I think we also have to think a little bit about the history of autopilots as well. I've been at Garmin for nearly 16 years now, so a little bit of a tenure in the aviation industry. Certainly not as long as yourself, of course.
I'm a lot older than you.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit. But for the longest time at Garmin, probably for the first 13 or 14 years at Garmin, the only autopilot we had was with an integrated flight deck. And really, when you looked at the market for autopilots, they were kind of expensive. And honestly, kind of old from a technology perspective, I'm not going to call out any particular names, but the reality was an autopilot used to run in at 30K plus for an installation that maybe it was a digital autopilot, but wouldn't necessarily be attitude based. It would have been a rate based autopilot, so it didn't have the full capability and flight profile and capability that we see in the modern autopilots. But yet that was a 30 grand product. So what essentially happened, Ian, that you really priced yourself out of the market, and the lower end of general aviation, the core market of general aviation, just couldn't get into an autopilot. And I think, to be fair, a lot of the cost wasn't necessarily coming from the cost intrinsically in the product. It was really coming from the certification overhead and actually the liability of the autopilots. I mean, in the end, an autopilot really has the ability to do great things, but also bad things. You're in what we call a catastrophic failure condition, so it really can have the flight envelope of the aeroplane. So it's kind of risky, and there's a lot of certification burden that sits over the top of that. And so, Garmin looked at the market and we were like, we think we can innovate here. We think we can bring some of the lessons learned from our integrated autopilot, the GFC 700, and we can take this down into the general aviation market. And the goal was set by management, by senior leadership at Garmin. We want to get an autopilot for under $10,000. Now, that's the price of the equipment, the certification, for under $10,000. Of course, there's a cost, that has for the installation and things like that. But that was the goal, and we felt that if we could get a price point under 10K, that we would really see a big uptake in the market for the core general aviation customers. Your 172s, your 182s, your PA28s, those type of market where, as you said, a very expensive autopilot solution was the only thing on the market at the time. So
I think, yeah. I mean, if you look at the fleet of general aviation aircraft, there's clearly there's a huge worldwide fleet, but an awful lot of those aircraft are they're not the price of brand new aircraft. So you might have an aircraft worth 50, 60, 70,000 pounds.
Absolutely.
So the install, spending half of the value of the aircraft on effectively an old technology autopilot is not that appealing.
Absolutely. It just doesn't make sense, right? If you've got to spend 30 or 40 grand on an autopilot for an aircraft that's worth 60 or 70,000, maybe less, then the business case doesn't make sense, and it's a tough sell. But here's the reality. An autopilot, that saves lives. It really, really does. And in terms of a safety thing, this is what I would say to anybody that's looking for an avionics upgrade. The thing that they should invest first is a new autopilot system, because it really, really makes a difference.
I would have disagreed with you before I installed an autopilot that works. And I have to say, when Garmin announced the GFC 500, I was super, super happy, because I didn't really relish paying huge amounts of money for an old technology autopilot.
Yeah, so great point. And as I mentioned before about the goal for Garmin to get an autopilot under $10,000, there was kind of another goal that was also about like taking the technology that we have within the GFC 700 and scaling it down into a lower cost solution. And we didn't just want to bring a basic wings leveler for $10,000. We didn't just want to bring an autopilot that could, do the pitch and the roll. We wanted to take the full spectrum of technology that we had and bring that down into the lower cost autopilot. So yeah, ESP, that's one of the great new features that we added with the GFC 500. And it's a little bit difficult to explain, but I'll try and kind of model this, if you will, for a second. So what ESP does is it works when the autopilot's off. So, and the goal with ESP is to prevent you from hand flying the aeroplane into a situation that could be dangerous for the aircraft. So it has what we call underspeed protection, right? So if you're getting slow based on the aircraft flight profile, what the ESP thing will gently nudge the aircraft forward to maintain your airspeed, really to prevent you from stalling, essentially. It also has overspeed protection. So if you're on the descent and you're descending at speed and you're approaching the V&E of the aircraft, again, we'll gently nudge the control forces up just to wash off some of that speed. Also works in the roll angle. So if you're exceeding the bank angle of the aeroplane there, you'll have this gentle control force feeling in the yoke or in the stick, just slowly nudging you back into that correct envelope. And the goal is just to put that layer of protection around the aeroplane to prevent you hand flying the aircraft into an unusual condition. And that's a really huge safety benefit. The use case, of course, is your base to final turn when you're low and slow. It comes on, ESP activates, of course, before the stall warning there. And that's just to give you that indication that, you're getting into the position that could be dangerous. And, same with that bank angle, IMC conditions, you're a little bit disorientated, then ESP is really going to help you in those type of scenarios. Some other things we've done, the level button, again, just if you're, that IMC conditions, inadvertent IMC, we know is a really big, dangerous situation. Just reach out, hit that blue level button, pitch, roll, neutral, and allow you to focus on cleaning up the aircraft there.
Yeah, I call that the buy you some time button. I think I've
absolutely.
never had to use it other than trying to kind of test it. But it's great to think, hit that. Okay, I can unload and figure out what's going on here.
Absolutely. And as I said, that was the goal. It wasn't just to create an autopilot, it was to create an autopilot that really adds extra safety. And with being able to couple the approaches, missed approaches, vertical speed settings, these things are fantastic, but we really wanted to add that extra safety as part of the autopilot system. And I really think we've achieved that with the GFC 500 and the GFC 600 autopilot as well.
Okay, given Garmin's inability to sit down and not develop things, I can't believe that you've already got to the end and go, well, that's it with autopilots, we've finished. What else are you thinking of adding? Yeah,
there's a lot happening in the skunk works at Garmin, quite honestly. I kind of feel like we're at the beginning of what we're going to be doing with the autopilot and also with the Garmin ecosystem as well. We talk about the autopilot, but the autopilot links with the Garmin indicators, it links with the Garmin navigators. We've got engine indication systems now. So really starting to form this ecosystem around the aircraft with huge amounts of data that we can utilize and help create a safer flying condition. Smart rudder bias is what we released for the GFC 600. That's based as similar to the ESP technology. And what smart rudder bias does, so twin engine aircraft, engine out, so your workload shot absolute up to the max. And in an engine out situation, you essentially have to trim the aircraft and trim the rudder. And so what smart rudder bias does is that kind of this auto trim for you, right? So it automatically kicks that rudder in to straighten the aircraft and just giving you that little bit of extra time to deal with the engine failure condition. So that's already out there on the market. We've certified that for a couple of aeroplanes now. And then obviously you look really far out there and what we've done is with Autoland, of course. And that's now certified with the FAA and with the EASA, a number of different aircraft types. And emergency Autoland is the pilot's incapacitated. The passengers can reach out, they can push that button, and the aircraft will truly land itself. And so I think where you've got ESP here for the GFC 500 and you've got auto land there's a lot of ground in the middle. There's a lot of ground in the middle where we can fill with life-saving technology and new innovations that are around the autopilot, that links with engine indication systems, that links with the navigators. So lots coming here.
So talking of Autoland, I mean, I think at the moment I'm probably, I think it's on the M600 from Piper. I think it's on the TBM. I think it's on the
Cirrus.
jet.
Yeah, exactly.
Where do you think that'll? I mean, how much smaller aircraft do you think it will be realistic to have that on? And do you think there will ever be a kind of retrofit Autoland?
Well, that's a great question. Some of the challenges with the Autoland itself is the fact it has to be completely integrated into the aircraft. And so what you may not realize is that we're also braking the aeroplane when it lands. And so you have to have the brakes, have to be integrated. We have to have the ability to control the engine. So that means you have to have some type of FADEC control or servo control on the actual engine system itself. So I don't think realistically a full auto land would be likely retrofit in your 182 as an example. I just think that technologically we could do it, but I just think the cost to do it would be so high just from the additional parts that you need. But I do think there's a space in between kind of the full auto land and with some of the capability that we have there. So there's lots happening at Garmin, and I'm not giving away the story here, but could we do things with an engine out as an example? Could we do something to do with glide maybe there? Could we do we already have the ability to within the nearest button to find the airfield. So I think there's certainly things that we can definitely do there. For the higher end aircraft, maybe there's some things we can do from the engine system as well. But I think realistically, a full auto land retrofit for the lower end of GA is probably not realistic. But you never know, Ian.
Thank you, Trevor, for taking the time to speak to us, and thank you on a personal note. Thank you very much for the smarts in the GFC 500. I have to say, it's revolutionised the 182. I'm a huge fan of it.
Very good, and I hope at some point I can make it back to the UK this year so we can do some flying together. So
that would be great. That would be great. Just in case anyone's wondering about that, I did actually pay for my GFC 500.
He did. I can confer that as well. He did absolutely pay for the products completely.
So there you go. So thank you very much, and have a great evening.
Thanks, Ian. Take care.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that, please give us a like, leave a comment, and subscribe.